On Dangerous Ground is a 1951 film noir directed by Nicholas Ray and partially by Ida Lupino. More on that later. Robert Ryan plays a tough cop who has a low tolerance for criminals. After an incident where he roughs up a suspect, he's sent upstate to a snowy mountain town to help the town's sheriff solve a murder. While there, he meets a blind woman, played by Ida Lupino, and sparks a romance with her. However, things get complicated when Ryan's number one suspect is Lupino's brother. This is a memorable noir filled with some great performances. I love the intensity of Robert Ryan. He goes from 0 to 100 in a couple of seconds, and when he goes off, it's intense. Even in scenes where he doesn't say a word, you feel the hate emanate from his eyes. He's a dangerous man who makes people feel uneasy, and he's so good at doing it that we, the viewers, sometimes feel put off by him. Ida Lupino gives a good performance as the blind woman, too. She's such a kindred spirit who's just trying to make her way through life. Throughout the film, we find out that her brother has a mental illness and that she just wants him to be safe. This makes Ryan conflicted, as he's always seen criminals as scum of the earth. But with Lupino's good heart and her brother's illness, he finds himself at a loss of what actions to take. Nowadays, it might seem obvious to us what the right steps would be to take in a situation like this, but back then, this was new territory for audiences. As I said before, Lupino actually directed part of this film. She had already established herself as a director with a couple successful films to her credit. So when Nicholas Ray took ill, Lupino took over direction for a couple days. She directed mainly scenes between her and Ryan, but I'm not sure specifically which ones. They blend together so well with Ray's footage that it's impossible to tell the difference. The film's score was done by Bernard Herrmann, who did the score to such classic films like Citizen Kane, North by Northwest, Psycho, and Taxi Driver. I think the score is good, but like many people, I hear some similarities to North by Northwest and Psycho, but remember, this came out first. He said in a couple interviews that he thought the best use of his music was in the climax of this film. It's a good sequence, but I think the best scene in the film is the chase scene near the beginning. It was shot using handheld cameras. It was a pioneering technique that made a lot of the intensity leap off the screen. Even by today's standards, this is a really great scene that is choreographed well and makes use of some nail-biting suspense. I guess my one gripe is that I wish this handheld was used again later in the film, but since it was relatively uncharted territory, I can't complain too much. I've said before that I'm not the biggest Nicholas Ray fan, but this is definitely one of my favorites by him. The blocking in this film is especially memorable for me. I'm not sure what it is, but I really love how many of the scenes in this are composed. Not Ray's best noir, but it's definitely one that shouldn't be forgotten.